Okay, this video is going to be on how to join parts together. So when you have your puzzle cube, you have all the 5 parts that you're going to have to join together. And join together meaning you have to put constraints on it so that it locks in place and doesn't just like fall apart. So let's take a look here. I have this piece. Here's a completed piece by one of the students. If you can see here. So if I try to click on it, I can't move them apart because they're locked in place. This is what we want. We don't want the cube to move around at all. So in order to do this, don't try to drag it really close to it and try to pretend like you did it together. You really need to know how to do this. So I'm going to do my best to try to explain this. If this part is a little step up, so if you get lost in this part and my video is not sufficient, again, I highly recommend you go to a better teacher than I am called YouTube. So go there and you'll see a bunch of people do it different ways. All you have to do is type puzzle cube assembly. Let's see if I go here and hit puzzle cube assembly YouTube. Right? There's so many videos because this curriculum has been around for a while. Who's this? Cart. He has a video. Maybe this beginning part is a little bit different, but for the most part, he'll show you how to link them together. So you could I'm going to show the way that they do it in all these videos, but there are different ways of getting these parts to stick to each other. So, just keep in mind, if you find a better way, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Great. As long as it, does what it's supposed to, it's fine. Now, sometimes it's going to be very specific, and I'm going to say you have to constrain it this way, otherwise you're going to get problems later. So, again, as long as you're okay with messing with this stuff and don't get too upset that you're, why didn't you tell me? Why do I have to do it all over again? Just if you put in the effort, I'll know, so don't worry. Okay, so if we want something like this, I'm not going to do a whole assembly like this. I'm going to show you how to put just this one cube with this yellow piece, and maybe I'll just pop it over here in the corner. Okay, so in order to do that, first thing we need to do, so now we have parts, so now we're going to start creating an assembly. We're not creating a part anymore, we're creating assembly because we're going to take all the parts we made. In this case, I only have 2, right? But you should have 5, and we're going to assemble them together. So I click assemble, and then I have to place the parts. So if I click over here and say place, I have to find the files, and I put the files. I should have put it here. There we go. So I'm going to place the blue cube, and I pop it in there. Now, if this was like something that I built, some toy or something like that, and it had screws in it, I'm going to have the same screws, maybe I have like 4 screws for some, maybe it's an IKEA piece or something like that. So if I have 4 screws, I'd pop in that piece 4 times, right? In this case, I only need it once, but it just automatically defaults to how many of the same part do you want to pop in. I only need 1, but if you needed more, right, there you go. I'm going to hit escape and then hit undo because I don't need that many, I only need 1. And then I go back in here again, don't click here because it's default to what I selected last. And now I need the yellow part, hit open, and I click. Hit escape. So, right here, if I want to place this cube to kind of look like it's right there, right? It actually looks like it kind of, nope, see? Oh, it's an illusion. So, but I want it to be like right in that slot right here. So in order to do that, some of you guys like to try to play tricks and try to fool me and say, I didn't miss, but I'm going to go over here and be like, oh, you didn't. Why is this moving around? It's not supposed to. So make sure you learn how to do this. Okay, the first thing, very, very most important thing that you need to know about is grounding an object. Grounding an object means I can't do this with all the objects. Because whenever you put parts together, sometimes it doesn't understand, do you want me to drag this guy and move him over here? Or do you want me to drag it over here and go like this? And sometimes if you have like a bunch of tiny little parts, it makes it really hard. Like really hard. I can't explain because I don't want to create a file that shows you all these different parts all over the place. But the important thing is to ground one of your objects. The main piece that is going to sit on top of the table flat like this, which I'm assuming is going to be in this piece in this case. This is a piece that I want it to look exactly like this sitting on top of a table. So this piece I'm going to go ahead and ground, and in order to do that, you right click and you hit ground. And then I think you need to click again so that push pin, it looks like push pin, or it's just like mounting it in place so it can't move anymore. So this piece right here I haven't grounded, but this piece I have, so now when I click and try to drag it, it won't move. So when I constrain it and stick it together, this guy's going to stick over here and stay here. And it won't do this anymore. Okay, in order to do that, you got to understand there's 3 planes, right? It's 3 dimensions. There's an X, Y, and Z dimension that I need to constrain or lock in place so it doesn't move freely all over the place like this. In order to do that, some people get really confused about this, so I'm going to create it's like an invisible plane, which I could turn on and off, but I'm going to create a plane just so that you can understand. Now, you don't have to make a plane. You don't have to make this, but I'm only doing it so that you could visually see it a little bit better. In order to create a plane, sometimes this is very useful, by the way. When I click on here, I have all these options. Like, where do you want to create this invisible plane? It's like a little transparency sheet that I want to put in place so that you could visually see what I'm doing. If I click plane here and I click here, it makes this like, you see that little clear, I can make planes here. See the little clear, little transparency that looks like it's in between it? I could turn this on and off. So if I create this and then hit enter, I think. Okay. So this plane here, I can turn on and off by, let's see, did I hit enter? Okay. Maybe I need to do this. Okay, there. So I clicked on offset from plane, which means once I select that plane, how far do I want this invisible transparent to show up? So if I can make it show up, I don't know, 0.5 away if I want to, which is slicing into there. But this is like an invisible transparency that's going through it. And I could turn this off. This one I'm going to undo. But this I could make it show up sometimes and then make it not show up. So you see how it shows up work plane right here? I can make it invisible and make it as if I never made it. Or I could turn it back on. So this plane right here, I know this guy's going to stick right here. But then again, illusion, not really there. So in order to stick it here, I want you to understand this plane is where I'm going to like stick it to. So it's like stuck to this invisible plane right here, and it can't be unstuck from it. It could move around on it, but it's just stuck there like a magnet. Okay, in order to do that, we use the constrain button, and we have the option between mate and flush. When you mate stuff, it's whenever 2 things are stuck to each other like a magnet. When you flush stuff, it means that it's flat on the top. So a lot of times they say like flush the countertop, meaning whenever you drag your hand across the counter, it's all the same level. There's no bumps that you feel whenever you drag your hand across the counter that stick out, really. Okay, so if we do mate here, right, it's going to say, what do you want to mate? What surface? Well, I want to mate this surface. You could also pick the work plane if you want, because this work plane is right up against this surface. So either this or that. I would prefer the object. So click the object, and then I would turn around the object. Kind of zoomed up. Okay. And then this face right here, I would stick together. And if I hit OK, when I take a look at it, see? It looks like it's like, oh, it's moving over here and doing nothing. But if you look at it from the side, from the right view, it's stuck on this plane. I know it's going up and down because I haven't locked it on the top part here. So it can move up and down, but if you, this invisible plane right here is where it's stuck to, or the surface of this face right here is where it's stuck to. And then I want to constrain it on the top here so that it locks in place up here. Now when I turn around, what happens? Oh, it looks like it's there, but I still can move around and it goes through this. That can't happen. That's impossible. So I want to use a constraint again. Again, you need 3 constraints for every 2 objects that you stick together, because there's an X, Y, and Z that you need to lock in place. If you forget to do one, your parts are going to do some freaky stuff. Like they're just going to move all over the place and you're going to be like, ah, what did I do? And then you have to do a bunch of undos to fix it. So make sure you do 3 and then pop in the next part and then constrain that. So here, let's try doing a flush. So when I flush it, that means I want this face, the top part of this object, and the top part of this object to be like, if I drag my hand across right here, it's going to be smooth. Like this part, this cube is not sticking out further than this cube. So if I hit OK, it's kind of easy to see from the top, right? It's not going to go further. Commercial. Okay. So it doesn't move up and down anymore, and it's stuck to the face here, so I have 2 constraints, but the only problem is it can still do this. So in order to do that, I could do a flush, right? With this face and this face, and that'll lock it in. Or, right, I could also go to the back here and flush this face with this face, right? And that's 3 total constraints. So now it definitely doesn't move and I'm set. Then, now, when I want to pop in another shape, I go here again, place, and then find my next piece, which I don't have, but you should have 5 pieces. Hit open, and then place it in here, and do the same thing. Now that I have this locked in place, I could turn off this work plane, make it invisible. Okay, so just remember, 3 constraints. It doesn't matter which combination. You could do, I don't think you could do 3 mates actually. You could do 2 mates and a flush maybe, or all flush. Either way, there's 3. So mate, mate, flush, 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 flush. I think you could do all 3. But just make sure it's 3, and then after you get 2 pieces together, make sure no matter what it doesn't move. And if it doesn't move in any direction, right, move it around, it doesn't move, then you're good. Go on to the next piece. Okay, that's it.